Story number 1. I caught my GF of 7 years cheating on a fetish website. I met my ex Mary when I was 18 years old, being my first real relationship. Without any past experience of long-term dating, I did not have anything comparing it to. I was blindly convinced that we had a happy relationship, until 8 months before our breakup. The last year of our relationship was rather challenging. The thing about early dating is that being together from your late teens and then maturing into becoming young adults is that you most often change a lot as individuals. This was no exception for me. I started growing tired from the mental capacity drain that came with dating her. Without wanting to admit it, we both had started growing apart from who we once were, speaking for myself at least. This became very clear to me towards the end. 8 months before our breakup, as we were on the brink of adopting a dog and finishing our master's degrees, I sensed a shift in Mary's behavior. Mary, dealing with deep-rooted traumas, often turned to me during tough times, but it became a one-sided emotional struggle. Despite my attempts to encourage therapy over 7 years, she never took the step. As Mary's emotional storms intensified, I found myself worn out from being an emotional punching bag. Her unresolved issues fueled fights, screams, and neglect of our deeper problems. Communicating my feelings proved futile, and the strain on our emotional bond left me disconnected and somewhat unattracted to her. I couldn't be myself with her. It felt like I was her father and not her boyfriend. Suggesting we skip the dog adoption and possibly part ways, Mary refused. In a last-ditch effort, she promised change, and I reluctantly gave her the chance to prove it. Little did I know, these moments were leading me towards a shocking revelation that would shatter 7 years of my life. Fast forward. We got the dog and things seemed to become a little better, before I started noticing other new changes in her behavior. While we were watching TV, she would sit on her phone with the screen tilted away from me. She would go to the bedroom and lock the door, saying that she wanted to have some me time. I addressed her behavior, which backfired with gaslighting and her screaming at me for not getting enough alone time, something I thought was weird, because I was more than happy to let her be by herself, whereas I could play video games with the boys. I was naive, though, and by trying to be respectful, I chose to trust her excuses. But oh boy, should I have listened to my gut. 8 months had elapsed, and with a friend in town staying at my apartment for a few days, we had drinks, catching up in the living room after his arrival. Suddenly, Mary claimed exhaustion and headed to bed. Around 1 a.m., I joined her, only to find her phone's glow casting light as she laid unconscious sleeping right next to it. I thought she looked cute blacked out with her phone still on in her hand, so I decided to charge it, unwittingly stumbling upon a shocking discovery. She was on Snapchat, but I only saw unfamiliar contacts and male bitmojis. It wasn't even her main account. My heart sank. I entered one of the chats. Oh boy. Sharing, texting, and detailing dark desires of assault and rape. Nude photos and videos of her, my girlfriend, for some random stranger that looked like Shrek to see. The guys she was texting were pathetic, not even good-looking at all, talking to her like they've never had coochie before in their entire life. I felt disgusted, hurt, and completely numb. The disturbing revelation continued when I found her profile on a kink website already open on her browser, featuring a naked picture of her, in our bed, for anyone on that page to see. The sense of betrayal was overwhelming, the worst feeling I've ever felt, as the girl I'd taken care of and dated for 7 years was someone unrecognizable, a stranger. Maintaining composure with my friend still present at my apartment, I woke her up calmly, her initial annoyance transforming into concern as she saw my distressed face, asking what's wrong. She faced the reality of her actions when I questioned why. Desperate to conceal the rest of the truth, she attempted to snatch the phone from my hand in panic. Inquiring about the explicit messages, she began crying and insisted, "No, I would never. I love you. It doesn't mean anything." To me, it meant everything. Funny thing is, in an instant, my feelings for her dissolved, being replaced with intense hatred and disgusted only. She confessed to being on the kink website for 3 months, citing a feeling of disconnection and lack of attention from me as the main cause. But that's some BS. After me having tried to end the relationship due to the same disconnection before, why do that? I ended it then and there. informing her she wasn't welcome back after work the next day. Despite my own pain, I had to calm her panic attack. I didn't sleep that night. Neither did she. We just sat there. She tried to comfort me, but I told her if she touched me, she would end up looking like Rihanna after carpooling with Chris Breezy. Determined to uncover the full extent of her double life, I took matters into my own hands. I was crazy about uncovering the whole truth. I created a profile on the same kink website, immersing myself in the world she had hidden from me. My undercover exploration revealed that not only was she still active on the platform, but she had also met up with other individuals on the site while we lived together. One picture on one of the profiles she followed was of her with another guy. They did not show their faces, but I could tell it was her. It fucking shattered me. The magnitude of the lies became unbearable. I had essentially been deceived for way longer than I could have ever imagined while going further down the rabbit hole. I later found out that she had been cheating on me, when we were living in different cities being long-distance too. The subsequent chapters of my life were written against a backdrop of bitter truths, honestly. The weight of the emotional trauma prompted a 1-year hiatus from my studies as I began the process of mental healing and accepting what had happened. If you are going through something similar, I feel for you, and trust me, it did not feel like it was going to go better, but it will. The journey was arduous, but with time, I emerged on the other side with the resilience to complete my master's degree and finding back to myself. After a while, I got my life back together, thankfully. During this healing process, a new chapter unfolded. I encountered someone new, a person whose presence cast a refreshing light on my past 7 years. The disdain I felt for my ex became more pronounced, overshadowed by the genuine connection and positivity of my current relationship. She makes me happier than I could have ever imagined being. Looking back, I realized I hadn't missed my ex for a second since the last time I saw her. If anything, I wouldn't care if she had outed herself, to be honest. The scars from that tumultuous relationship served as a reminder of the importance of self-worth and the necessity of embracing new beginnings, even when life feels flipped upside down. Story number 2. Don't even know where to go from here. I am 30, have been having a super rough time mentally since about Halloween. It all started a couple weeks before that when me and my wife of 7 years, F25, went to a Jason Aldean concert with her friend. I'm not into country music at all, but I went with them to try to give her a good night out. I asked her a minor question and it ruined her night. The arguments dragged out for days, but ultimately I wavered and apologized. About a WK before Halloween, she asked if she could go out of state for the weekend with a few friends and have a girls' weekend out. She had been stressed, and I still felt bad about ruining her night, and thought that it would be good for her to get out with friends. I spent the weekend at home with my little brother playing video games and drinking. She got home Monday morning, and just the look in her and her friends, same one from the concert, eyes is burned into my memory. That night she said she had something to talk to me about. She wanted to have sex first to get me in a better mood. Feeling that something was going on, I made her just have the conversation. She asked me for an open relationship. Knowing that this is a cop-out for cheaters, I literally lost my SHT for about 5 days. Was drinking too much and didn't want to be around anyone. The whole week she kept going out for long periods of time with horrible excuses. I ended up waiting a couple days and started pushing for truths in the situation. I started with her friend we went out with. My wife had told me a few of her secrets, so I extorted her for information. She had told me that my wife did nothing over the weekend but had been the week after, while I was having a total mental break. She got so mad she just forwarded me to the guy she had been messing around with. I talked with him and his roommate, and evidently she told them we were a poly couple, and they confirmed what the friend told me. They apologized, and I took it. It wasn't their fault. Finally, on Friday, I confronted her about it. She denied everything, of course, but I'd already known too much. She ended up going out that night and doing it again and told me that was the only time. That we weren't technically together then, but then begged me to stay in the relationship. It's been a constant struggle. We have a kid together, and I'm the only father her other kid has ever known. Last year, I liquidated all of my retirement savings to get us into a house and went into debt. And to help out, we had been struggling financially. She had never been a good disciplinarian, so I had to be for my sons. Nowadays, they resent me because I'm the only one who puts my foot down with them. I feel like my entire life is a lie, and everything I've worked for years is meaningless. If I can work this hard and get screwed over this bad, what's even the point? Story number 3. Why should I, 41 minutes, believe my wife, 35 Fahrenheits, instead of someone with nothing to gain? We have been married for almost 14 years, and for the last 3, I have carried quite a burden. Someone told a friend of ours my wife cheated, and I have chosen try my best to believe my wife instead of the source, but the damage may be done. Long version for those that may be able to relate. It may not be a factor, but prior to dating me, my wife was a promiscuous party girl. She admitted to not always being faithful to her BFs, but she was also 19 when we meet. I've always felt like she is just playing house with me and our 3 kids. There's been various points in our relationship where she would go out more and come home hammered, or in a couple cases be brought home by her friends in terrible shape. They never went to clubs, but restaurant bars. I always knew the people she would be with, but more often than not, there would always seem to be friends of friends join them. To my knowledge, these were always other girls, but that's the only part of the story I would get. During one of these periods, she was hanging out a lot with one of our mutual couple's friends. She is closer to the wife than I am to the husband's, but I like the husband and consider him a friend. The husband would usually be with my wife and his, it not always. It's worth mentioning these long nights would usually be a I'm gonna meet female friend's name here, on my way home for drinks. I knew that was code for I'll be home at 11th or midnight, drunk. This couple was getting married in the fall and my wife was going on a bachelorette trip about 3 hours away. There were about 6 girls and the groom's mom. The mom hung with them until it got late each night, but she would go back to her hotel when it got late. I made my concerns known and addressed the fact that she usually overdoes it, and being out of town makes me nervous. I played the drinking card instead of, oh, you're going to cheat. Now I'll speed up. They went on the trip. She came back tired as expected, but everything seemed fine. They all did a pole dancing class, had dinner out and went dancing at a popular tourist trap dance club. The wedding day came, and I was still annoyed with her heavy and constant drinking. At the reception, I couldn't help but notice one of the girls looking at me in a strange way. It's like she was sad for me or something, sort of the way someone would look at you a loved one's funeral. I thought it was weird. But she's only 18, groom's much younger sister-in-law, and I'm just kind of an old guy at the appetizer table, really trying to speed up now. Fast forward about 3 months. So, the girl that was looking at me all pitiful at the party tells her husband, the groom's brother, what really went down on their trip. The groom calls me. He tells me the girls started hanging out with a bunch of random guys in town on a bachelor party. They were at the same dance club, and they all partied and danced at the club. Then the bachelorette party got in the guy's limo and went to a strip club. The younger girls all had fake IDs and one knew someone there. Apparently my wife spent most of the time with one party goer in particular. Our friend, the bride, stayed close with the bachelor from the other party. The other girls paired off with the remaining bachelor party guys. My friend, the groom, was freaking out because he did his best to have a mellow bachelor party as to not worry his fiancée, and then she goes all out wild. After he calmed down, I asked if he knew if my wife had done anything worse than lying. He sent a text back saying she got fingered by a guy at the strip club. My heart sank. I knew at that moment I really loved my wife, and only someone I loved that much could hurt me that bad. The bride calls my wife to say the groom knows, and the word is out. My wife calls me soon after and confesses to going to a strip club. I shocked her a bit when I told her I knew about the strip club and riding with the bachelor party. I asked her about the physical cheating, and she denied it and said that was ridiculous. She later admitted that she danced very inappropriately with this guy, inappropriate within the expectations of our marriage. He rubbed on her legs, ass, and hips. She sat in his lap in the limo and at the strip club. She said he asked if he could kiss her, and she said no. She still strongly denies the fingering piece. Apparently, when it got real late, she and the bride decided it was time to go. They left and called an Uber to go back to the hotel. The bride called the bachelor to make sure their friends made it out, but that's supposed to be all. The other girls Ubered separately. I can see it in my head, because my wife has done this to me. She'll get drunk in a strip club or dance club and start giving me a lap dance, and almost every time she's facing me and dancing, I slide my hand up her dress and rub her or finger her. Since then, we have not hung out with that group, The husband has called me here and there. It's mostly about kids, but the conversation always turns to the wives. How are we? And if I've heard anything else. The bachelorette says she doesn't know for sure if my wife did kiss the guy or get fingered. But if my wife says no, the bachelorette says to believe her. Why would the sister-in-law lie? That makes no sense to me. I've had a couple buddies say maybe she saw from a distance and assumed. Maybe she secretly hates my wife. Or maybe she's dishing dirt, try or not, to get extra attention. My wife says that girl was so drunk she could hardly stand up, and she's just talking shit. I also wonder why my wife never wanted to confront the sister-in-law. The two families literally cut ties instantly and haven't hung out since. This isn't the first time my wife has all of a sudden stopped hanging out with a friend like this. I believe the friends' husbands don't like her. My wife is pretty, super likable, and fun. This has to be because when they're drunk and out, she acts different. Something tells me they don't trust their wife with mine because Mai is wild and cheats. No confirmation on that either. From the moment the bombshell was dropped, what little trust I had been shot to hell. She has only had one late drunk night episode since, but driving drunk and smashing a curb at an end to that night before it went to late. Am I being a chump? Do I look like an idiot to everyone? I know divorce means I destroy the lift I have with my kids. I see them every day and they are everything to me. But I know the world as we know it, and they know it will never be the same if I ask for a divorce in order to relieve myself of the burden. Divorce would also be to save a little pride. I know if she left me, I'd feel even more like a simp. Story number 4. Should I break up with my BF who cheated on me twice? With different girls, but it was 2 years ago. And we've been in a relationship for 8 years now. Or am I wrong? So it all started when we were in high school. He proposed me when we were in 11th grade, and I accepted his proposal. But then during 12th grade, he cheated on me with a girl from his class. We both were in different classes as we chose different streams. I came to know about it from few friends and also witnessed it myself after then. He cried like a baby and was so sorry, and so I forgave him. Everything went good for a while, and then when we were in college, age 19, he cheated on me again, and it lasted about for a year or something cause he wanted to break up, but the girl wasn't willing to do so. Hence, he wanted to end things amicably. I have no idea to what extent he was physically connected to both of these girls. He regretted his mistake, and I eventually forgave him, thinking that maybe it happened because he's still young, immature and all that. He went to Singapore for studies. A girl there proposed him, and when he came back, I saw a few chats where she said I love you to him several times. But he said it was just a friendly gesture, and I would never fuck around with anyone now that I know how many times I've broken your heart, and she was clearly not his type as per him. He was just trying to make friends in the new country. Now he's back, and he's been acting like the best boyfriend ever, taking care of me, asking me out on dates, calling me every now and then, and now we're 22. I always dated him with the intention to marry him, but I don't know. I'm terrified that what if something like this happened again after marriage? And on the same hand, I think I might be overthinking stuff cause he's the most lovable person I'll ever meet. I'm doubting my sanity, RN. I tried to break up with him over this, but taking to him made me feel bad that I'm punishing him for his past mistakes. Is it right, or am I just overreacting? And he's like, you've never lived with me yet. You still don't know how much I love you. I'll do everything I can go solve your doubts. Until now, he never gave me his phone when I asked, but I had his fingerprints saved to my phone. He said that there's nothing to hide, and he's just not sure how I'm going to react to certain things that are totally unnecessary to fuck up a relationship we have. And I do sound like a high schooler as I've finished writing my part. He's my first love, and he's the only guy I've been with. Story number 5. Would this be considered as emotional cheating? My boyfriend and I are in LDR since June last year. Before he went to another country, we were contemplating whether to continue our relationship since he hated the setup. However, even before he went to another country, we were already in LDR but only 2 hours away from each other. It was bearable since we were able to see each other 2 times a month. Him leaving to another country was very different since it would mean seeing each other once a year if possible, and probably not even getting the chance to see each other for an entire year. Last week, I opened up to him about me feeling him being emotionally distant from me. We talked about it on call, and he asked me if I still would want to continue the relationship because if I don't want to. He doesn't want me to be tied down to something I wouldn't like. He also told me that he's already on the edge of continuing our relationship, and we've done everything we can to solve the problems related to physical distance, which was spending time together, etc. But he feels as if it's lacking. Honestly, hearing his pessimistic comments were discouraging. It felt like he placed the outcome of our relationship on my shoulders. We stopped talking for a bit since he had to run some errands. I had the feeling he was interested in someone else near him. I asked him this question, and he told me yes. He missed the feeling of seeing each other. He saw us being happy through her. While thinking about the memories we had together, I was replaced by her on them. I really felt betrayed and helpless after hearing that. I understand feelings can't be prevented, but doesn't that mean he didn't have clear boundaries leading to him being interested in someone else? We had the same problem 3 months after our relationship just started. He became interested in one of his classmates. Hearing that shattered me so much because I had so much trust in him. I begged him that we can still fix our relationship. He promised me that situation won't happen again, and I believed him. Now it happened again twice. I don't know if I would want to experience the same feeling again thrice once he goes to college next year. I broke it off with him, but a part of me regrets my decision because I still love him so much. Would what he did be considered as emotional cheating? Story number 6. My ex-fiancé cheated on me and left me to raise our son on my own. I, 21 Fahrenheit, met Chris 26 minutes, when I was 17 and he was 22. I was fresh out of an abusive relationship and wasn't ready to date. The reason I bring this up is because it comes back into play later when shit basically hits the fan. Despite not feeling ready to date, Chris and I quickly jumped into a relationship because it was what he wanted at the time. Initially, everything was great. Chris created an environment where I felt safe to discuss anything. Those initial months were filled with happiness, marked by his kindness, care, sweetness, and playfulness. Around the 5th month of our relationship, there was a light-hearted moment where we jokingly discussed getting married, feeling like we were a perfect match. During this time, Chris was living with me as his mom had asked him to leave so his daughter and her mother could stay at his mom's place. I'd also met his daughter and her mother by then. It became evident that Chris wasn't joking when, the morning I turned 18, he proposed to me in the park. For obvious reasons, my mom didn't approve of any of this. In fact, I remember her being quite mad because she felt I was too young and it was way too soon. And she was right. In the middle of our relationship, I noticed a shift in Chris's behavior. He stopped doing things he used to, and his temper worsened, especially when he drank heavily. While he hadn't become physically aggressive, he was way angrier and wanted more intense sex. If I didn't have sex with him, he would pretty much ignore for the rest of the night. I also noticed the way he showed affection, like buying flowers and planning dates, basically stopped, and his tone changed from happy when he was around me to annoyed. Surprisingly, when we discussed these changes, he felt I was the one who had changed. He expressed that I wasn't confiding in him anymore, making him feel I didn't care. I was shocked, honestly, and remember asking how I could change to fix those problems. I also raised the issue of his drinking, expressing concern for his health and the aggressive behavior it triggered. Even though we had that conversation, and he said he would stop drinking so much, nothing ever really changed. I remember one time when he was drunk that he choked me and I blacked out for a moment, and he didn't believe that he had actually done it. A week before my 19th birthday, I found out I was pregnant. Although this technically wasn't a good thing, I was happy because previously I was told by my doctor that I couldn't have kids due to health problems. Chris was also happy because he had been wanting a son, and turns out I was having a boy. The situation was pretty much a win-win. I learned that I actually could have kids, and he got the son that he wanted. Despite him being really happy the first 2 weeks, he got really abusive right after. The first time he ever put his hands on me was when I was a few weeks pregnant. He ended up not only cheating while I was pregnant, but being really abusive. He blamed me for how the relationship had turned out and said he wanted to go on a break from the relationship when I was around 7 months pregnant. We still lived together, so the main focus of the break was for him to get help. Instead of doing that, he cheated with one of the older women in the neighbor and then with someone else. He then told the new girl that I was the one who cheated, and that the baby wasn't his. He blocked my number the SME night he left to cheat, and never told his mom the truth of what happened. She didn't know what happened until I told her and showed her messages. I ended up giving birth with my mom by my side and not him, and I took him to court. Since he wasn't on the birth certificate, I found that I didn't have to put him on child support, and I felt that was the better option for me and my son. Not only do I not have a super toxic person in my life, but now I don't have to worry about my son spending weekends with a really neglectful parent with a bad temper. So that's pretty much how my ex-fiancé cheated on me while I was pregnant and left me to raise my son on my own. And I'm